Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a jelly printing session and I have already started and then decided to hit record, and I'm using the brand new clear stamp set of our Cuff Collection 3. I just did a print and there are some leftover marks on the plate. I really like when this happens. Now I just go and start, and I will play kind of intuitively and see where it takes me and which prints I can get today. Another thing, I could not copy my video from my phone to my computer to make the editing, so I have to do the voiceover on my phone. I hope the audio is okay. Please leave me a comment if it's okay for you, if you hear everything, if it's if it sounds nice or not. The problem is that my PC is not the newest and the videos are getting bigger and bigger, and that sometimes is a big issue. I did this video in German and I talked all the way through, so sometimes I don't know what I was talking about. I used the Payne Spray acrylic paint for my layer here, and I did not cover everything, and I'm just adding another color to this print. Usually the first prints I'm doing when I do jelly printing are not the best. I feel that always comes with every print. You get new ideas and you see what works nice and what doesn't, and usually the prints get better later in the session, and sometimes I cannot stop then printing because I get so beautiful prints. I also have a bunch of prints laying around here that I haven't used, and sometimes I feel it's hard to pick one of the best prints to use and then I just lay this aside and keep it. But finally, I don't know why I keep the prints. It does not make sense. I think I was explaining a bit about if I leave the paper longer or not so long on my jelly plate, and here I wanted to pick up everything that was on the plate. That means I keep it a bit longer and give it a good press, and then I check if everything is on there and before I remove the paper. That's not my favorite print, but I think it has quite a nice texture with the white that was already on the plate from before. And often I think these more I would not say boring prints, but maybe these more boring and one color prints are the ones that I use the most. I will now go for this pinkish color. This is one of my favorites for collages. I reuse this color very often, and so I try to make collage papers with colors I like, because I have a lot of here that are pretty, but I never use the colors in my work, so I now try to make that fit. For this print I'm using that flower stamp again, and I pick up the paint from the jelly plate with the stamp, and then I just clean the stamp on a leftover paper or on a piece of scrap paper. I usually also use these papers where I clean the brayer and clean the stamps for collages or for projects, because they are sometimes really pretty. Another thing I wanted to mention is that, of course, you don't want to let the paint dry on your stamp because it's a bit hard to remove it, but it's not a real issue. You can just, if you have some, I will show you all the prints at the end of the video. If you have some dried paint on a clear stamp and also on a rubber stamp, you can just use water and spray that over your stamp and let this sit for about 10 or 15 minutes and then go in with a wet wipe and remove the paint. It usually comes off quite easily. If you can't get rid of it, you can use alcohol to remove it. One thing I just don't recommend is having a stamp with dry paint and let it sit forever. I would clean it as soon as possible. And here I'm just experimenting a bit. I think I will not talk all the way through because the video is quite long today, but if there's something important, I will mention this. By the way, the paper I'm using for my prints today is a 120 GSM printer paper. I really like that weight for collages and also for card backgrounds. I would not recommend using thinner paper because that can buckle with the wet paint. And of course you can use thicker paper. This is also something I do regularly to get more stable prints. Here I have some fragments left from the paint on the plate, and this is what I really like because that gives more interest to the next print. I really like the grunginess it adds to the backgrounds. Here I've already added the sap green from Schmincke to my plate, and I believe I was searching for the reddish violet color from Amsterdam because I really love this color combo. And here I don't stamp the image to the paper. I stamp it from one color into the other, so it gets transferred into the other color, and that makes it look very interesting. I have a pretty thin layer of paint here on my plate. I'm not sure if I will take the print right away or if I will let this dry a little and then add another layer on top, but I'm pretty sure we will see that soon. If you feel that the video is going a bit slow because I was talking in German a lot, it might be useful to use that setting of the YouTube video settings to speed up the video twice so it gets a bit quicker. Ah yeah, and that's what I thought. I picked out the Naples yellow reddish. It's quite a light color with kind of a tone to it. It's a warm reddish yellow tone from Amsterdam, and I use this to pick up the print, and therefore it's quite good to let the first layer dry a little bit on the jelly plate. So if you go in with your final paint layer, it will not smear the color underneath. And if you have such a layered print, I recommend to press the paper down quite well. Maybe roll over the paper with your brayer and then just peek under one of the corners to see if everything is on your paper and not still on your plate. If it's still on your plate, just wait a little bit longer before you pull the print. And I think this gives me quite a nice background. It's pretty neutral, so you can, it's not too colorful and too busy, but you have some different color areas, and that's something I really like for card making. I will now switch to a different stamp just to create some different patterns. The stamp on the top is quite nice. I already used it to make some reels for my Instagram page. That's also a really nice stamp for jelly printing, and I did not thought that I would use it in this session, but in the end I decided to pick it. Here I'm using the burnt sienna, one of my favorite colors for jelly printing. I recognize that transparent colors make more prettier prints in my eyes compared to opaque colors. I believe that's because when they layer up, they are transparent and you can see some of the other layers underneath. So I always try to use many transparent colors combined with one opaque color. That usually makes the more interesting prints, I would say. I also use that red violet color plus the Naples yellow Redish. And before I go into that sap green on my plate, I clean the brayer because I don't want to mix it. I just want to have it on the plate. This color combo is quite autumnal, and we will switch to another color combo with the next print because I feel we don't need autumn colors today. We need more some summer colors, and I will make some more bluish, maybe ocean themed prints for the rest of the session. Here I want to make two prints with this layer on the plate. And so I use the first paper just quickly to have some paint left on my plate. I will show you all the prints later. And then I go in with another piece of paper and to pull up the rest of the paint from the plate. And this is great because you get two prints, and often the second print is the more beautiful. There is still some paint left on the plate. That's because the paint dries quite quickly, and then sometimes it's hard to pick it up, but I don't mind that because I will have this greenish color on my next print that usually makes some interesting textures. I'm now going to switch to more summer colors, and I'm starting with the Ultramarine from Schmincke. It's also a transparent color, and I really love this color, but I have never used it for jelly printing, so I don't have any prints with this color, and this is something I often search for, and that's a good idea to to make myself some prints with this color. I'm combining it with a bluish turquoise from Amsterdam. I have some nice fragments left here, and I wanted to pick this up with kind of a neutral color. And I'm not using that reddish Naples yellow because I think it does not fit the blue, but I'm searching for the Naples yellow greenish, which is similar to the reddish one, just with a greener touch. And I think that's perfect for the blue colors here. I decided to create a little bit of texture on that background just to make sure it has some interest on it, as it's quite a lot of this light color on the plate. And for this print, I will press the paper down quite good, and I also wait a little bit so I can make sure that everything that was on the plate is transferred to the paper. And here I just peek under the corners to make sure that that worked out. And this print turns out really nice, I feel. It's kind of a vintagey, more nautical themed print. And I think this is quite nice for many different projects. I'm switching to another stamp from the same stamp set, and it's inspired by a Christmas ornament. I think my sister-in-law has these hanging around in her house during Christmas time, and I think it's not only a Christmas pattern. I think you can use it for all kinds of stuff. I'm starting out with the same colors that I've used before, the ultramarine blue, the turquoise blue, and the sap green. My favorite paints are from Schmincke, Amsterdam, and I also love the Lefranc et Bourgeois colors from France, and I believe the Liquitex basics are also quite nice. I only have two of them, but they feel similar to the Amsterdam colors. I have quite a lot paint in some areas on my plate, and therefore I just lay the paper quickly on top to remove a little bit of the color. And I think this print is quite nice because I like the white areas it has. But if you don't like that, you just can use it for another printing session or for another print, or just use the back side of it for another print. And what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning the stamp because I wanted to wait until the paint on the plate dries a little bit so I can pick it up with another layer of paint. And here you can see how easy it is to remove the paint from the stamp. I spritz it with water. It was still wet because I'm usually laying the stamps upside down onto a wet wipe so the paint does not dry, and then it's easy to remove it after I'm done with the whole printing session. I don't want the pattern to be smeared with the next layer, so that's the reason why I'm waiting for it to dry. It does not have to dry completely. It's good if it just the top is a bit dry. What I'm trying out here is I wanted to mix in some of this fluid acrylics from De La Rowney into the white to get some kind of rusty shades. I can tell you that did not work out here, but we will try something similar later. Talking about these fluid acrylics, they came out recently here in our German art supply store, and I thought they were the price was okay. It was not so expensive, and they had these tiny bottles, and I thought, why the heck should I buy such a small amount of paint for quite a lot of money? And then I read in the description of the paints that you can refill the small bottles, and that was quite a nice idea, I thought. And so I ordered the small bottles. You can remove that cap here and then refill it. And I bought the same color in a bigger version, so I have the refills. And I really like them. I already use them quite often for the mixed media projects. For smaller ones, it's quite nice to have this tiny nib. And I think they will also be really nice to take out on location for sketchbook painting or to take with me on holidays, because usually on holidays I fill my sketchbooks every day when we are on the beach or in our home, and do some painting and drawing in my sketchbook. And that's the print I got. I really love this one. You just can see the burnt sienna I've added. We will try something similar for the next prints because I really like the rusty tone of the burnt sienna combined with these colors. And I have linked up a video in the top right corner. I think I've linked up a video with little books I made from jelly prints, and I explained that in the German session I did, because I really like to use these jelly prints to make some one-sheet mini books. I'm now switching to the stamp I've mentioned just before. It's one of my favorites from the set, and it only comes with the clear set. It's not on the rubber plate, and it's perfect for nautical, ocean-themed backgrounds. And I'm using the same colors as before. I will just add in also a little bit of burnt sienna to get kind of a rusty look. I have quite a lot paint in some areas, and I just lay that paper on top to remove that paint that is too much. That also gives me a pretty print, I think. But now I will let this sit until it's a little bit dry, and then I add some more paint to pick up the texture on the plate. And here I'm adding the Naples yellow greenish and a little bit of the burnt sienna. That little bit is a bit too much, but I don't mind that. I feel the color combo is really, really nice. I'm covering the whole plate with this mixture, and then I am going to pull the print, and this is a step where you have to leave the paper a little bit longer on your plate and give it a good press to make sure you will pull up everything that you have on the plate. I really love how this print turned out, and usually I meant to stop after this print, but because I love this so much, I decided to give it another go with this color combo, just with a little bit less of the burnt sienna, because this print is so pretty and I think quite useful for nautical projects, for maybe mini albums for your holidays, or summer themed greeting cards, or greeting cards with some boats or fishes on them. Now I'm starting with the burnt sienna, and I used the same stamp to create the texture, and I just use the stamp and pull up some paint and then transfer it to some of the other areas. I had quite a lot burnt sienna in these areas, and so I'm using the print from before and just lay it down a little bit to pick up the paint that was too much in my eyes. And now I will keep on working on this print, add the other colors, and we will see what happens. I decided to make 2 prints from this one layer of paint, and I hope that it was the right decision. I really like the first one, and I believe for the second one I'm using another layer of that greenish Naples yellow to pull the print. There are just some fragments left, and I think they are pretty dry, so I go on top immediately with the paint. And this print turns out also super nice. I really like it. I like the colors. I think everything is perfect on this background. And I think this was the last print. Yes, and I will now flip through all the other prints that I've done so you can see them, because sometimes there is not a lot of time to show them during a jelly printing session. And I hope you enjoyed today's video, and don't forget to leave me a comment, and I hope we will see us next time. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.